welcome to A Drink and a Natter. I'm Jacqui, your juicy chef, and I'm delighted this morning. Yes, we're shooting in the morning in sunny Kingston, Jamaica with my two friends, Ann and Shikisha. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks. Good morning.
Oh yeah, good morning. morning. So as you can see, I'm trying to perk them up, right? We had full confession, we had some coffee before just to wake up. It's very early morning. If you hear some noise in the background, it's from next door. I don't know what's going on. There's some construction going on, so we're hearing all these strange noises. And you may hear my niece and nephew who've made an appearance on earlier episodes as well. So you may hear a little shouting, a little crying, a little miserable voices because they're like, why can't we be with Auntie Jacqui outside? But, so forgive us. This is real life. It's unscripted. And thank you for joining us today. So on this episode, we are Nyam and we're Trod. And we're stuck, Well, some people are traveling. At the end of the day, it's your personal choice. I'm not condemning. People have to travel for different reasons. Some of us choose to remain until such time, again, for various reasons. So Japan is on my mind today. So last year for the Olympics, I was supposed to go with my Auntie Carmen to Japan and we were going to take a tour. Now, when you think of people in Japan, it's, foreigners in Japan. Jamaica's rarely mentioned. Well, my two friends today lived in Japan for several years and they're going to speak to us about their experience. So, ladies, first of all, let me start with you, Shikisha. Why Japan? Why did you move there? Let me know why.
Okay, so first off, my name is a Japanese word.
Okay.
And I was intentionally given this name by, Alton Ellis. Mm-hmm. His sister actually insisted on my name. So.
Okay, so let me just point there. For our audience who don't know, sorry, again, we're outside, you hear the noise. Sorry, guys. Alton Ellis is he still alive? Right. He's one of Jamaica's best reggae crooners for reference.
Yes.
So you could tell them who your father is too, because he's big in the music industry in Jamaica.
So I'm Shikisha Cowan. I am the daughter of Tommy and Valerie Cowan, legendary producers and huge participants in the development of Jamaican culture and reggae music.
Okay, and so you tell them about your events as well that you guys have. Well,
so my family, we are the producers of Fun in the Sun, which is the Caribbean's largest Christian music festival, and it's been going this year, so we're in 2021. Mm-hmm. This will be 19 years of Fun in the Sun.
Wow.
So we're here, we do that. We also do a plethora of other events, but that is our largest event at the moment.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So let's go back to what you were saying. You were named by Alton Ellis, so Japanese name.
His sister actually named me, and because of that, I've always had this love affair with Japan. I was always like, I want to live there. A friend of mine said when I was 7, I told her I was going to live in Japan. Mm-hmm. She asked me how. I was like, I don't know. That's not important.
Yeah, you spoke it into being.
Why are you crushing my dreams? Mm-hmm. Clearly, there is an intention here. But in 99, I had just come home from Florida and I kept saying, I want to go to Japan. And I was able to go to Japan to produce a concert called Jumpin' Splash.
Okay.
And that had Inner Circle, Anthony B, all sorts, Freddie McGregor.
Oh my God, that was amazing. Great mix of,
So I was in Japan for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And when I came back, I said, I have to live there. Mm-hmm. And so I was then introduced to the JET program, which is an amazing cultural exchange program that the Japanese government provides to people all over the world from English-speaking countries and now some non-English-speaking countries. Jamaica has been a participant for, I believe, 20 years. About 20 years. This year would make 20 years. Mm-hmm. But it gave me the opportunity to live in Japan, to learn a lot about Japanese culture beyond the pretty stuff that we like to see on TV.
Yeah,
it's a little more than anime leads you to believe. Certainly more than dramas, but that's how I ended up in Japan. and it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Oh my gosh. So Leanne, I want to hear about why you went to Japan as well. And then I'll ask you guys some other questions about your experience. But tell us your journey to Japan.
Okay, well, when I was 16, my mother's friend, Sandra Linshu, she worked with Toyota. And they had the dealership, etc. And she used to go to Japan a lot, especially Kyoto.
Okay.
And at the time, I didn't know much about Japan. And she brought back a yukata, the robe, and some chopsticks. Now, being 16, the chopsticks, I actually put it in my hair and walked around with the yukata. Yeah. Something you're not supposed to do at all. Okay, right? Put it in your hair. But, I thought, oh, okay, yes, it looks nice like this. And I'm just going to walk around and prance and fine. And, that's something I did. And, time passed, forgot about it, but planted a seed. Then I went to university in New York. And while I was in my last year, a friend came to me and she said, do you know about the JET program? You like to learn about cultures. You like to live in different places. I was in Mexico before. And she said, there's this program to Japan, the JET program. Same program Shikisha went on. And, you think you'd be interested? I'm going to apply. And so I said, maybe. And she said, just come with me. Let's go and look at it. So I went and I looked and, we spoke to the people. And at the time I worked part-time in a library as well. Okay. So I started to read some books. The first one was on geisha. Okay.
It's interesting. It's fascinating, that whole geisha culture.
I don't usually admit that to myself, but truly. And I was like, this seems interesting. Yes. And, I said to the universe that I'm going to go to Japan. I didn't know how. I didn't know, if definitely the JET program or not, because I was focusing on graduating. Right. But I was like, I think after I'm going to go to Japan. Right. And that's basically how that started. Let's fast forward a little bit. So I graduated, came back to Jamaica for a year, worked at UTech in the art center with Pat Ramsey. Got a phone call one morning. Too. Yes, she is. Yeah. Got a phone call one morning. I need a recommendation for the JET program. The JET program? Is that still going on now? Okay, how many days do you have to apply? 11 days. I was like, oh, okay. So did off the recommendation, sent that for the person, but I decided in that time I'm going to apply. And so I applied. I went to the interview. There were like 6 people in front of you, very intimidating. And you're like, yeah, so how will you represent Jamaica? Okay. And I got through. Okay. And I had a great experience.
Oh, wow. And it's so funny because with Leanne, I actually saw her. Yeah. So there's a gentleman called Renzo, right? Yeah. That I've been following on YouTube for years about Black in Japan, Black experiences. And for the most part, everybody I was seeing were like African American typically. And you were the first Jamaican Caribbean person I saw. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. And I, watched her story and I just felt so proud. With Shikisha now, we were friends on Twitter first, I believe, or something. Somewhere like, it's been so long now. I was like, I can't even.
In these social media streets.
Right, exactly. So she's somebody I met that way. And then, of course, we have so many friends in common. And it's just, again, a small world. And living on the islands as well. And I remember when you did your soba noodle exam. That was so funny because I love soba noodles. And could you just tell us about the whole noodle culture? Because people think about ramen and stuff, but there's more than that, and there's history behind these noodles.
Well, okay, so let me not speak to the whole culture of noodles,
right?
But as you said, everybody knows about ramen. Soba is what I like to call the underbelly. It's the hidden culture of Japan. And I was actually the first non-Japanese to sit the exam in the entire country. Like, it became a whole thing.
Wow, I
they
didn't
had
know
to
it
have
so
meetings.
big.
They're like, are we allowed to have foreigners do this? She does not speak Japanese. How will she know what to do? And my instructor, who does not speak English, said, oh no, she's fine. She can do this. She knows what she's doing. And I'm like, I do not know what I'm doing. I, however, cannot embarrass my country. That's not going to happen. So, my whole town was very into me doing this exam. But with soba, so my town that I was in, they grow soba. Soba is a very quick crop. It's also a cover crop. It's buckwheat. For those who don't know, soba is buckwheat. And the way that my town does it, there's no flour involved.
Ah.
So it makes it a little harder because buckwheat does not like water. It's not friends with water.
Okay.
But this exam and everything that I learned through doing it, the rhythm of the movements, the silence that is required, which is absolutely impossible for me to do. But however, I championed through. I did not fail you, Jamaica. I did it. You know, like there are all these rules, like you have to be in full white, you can't have any colors on, you have to be absolutely silent. And they were just like, Shikisha, remember, no humming, no singing, you know, because all of my schools are like, oh no, oh, Genki Sensei. I'm like, no, I am not. Like, I just don't know how to not make noise. But there's a rhythm and there's a silence and there's a very honorable way of doing things and there's a methodology. But also it's really, really important that you continuously improve. So it's not, oh, you're going to get it. It's not suddenly you're going to get it right. It's you're going to improve. You're going to be 2 minutes faster each time that you do it because you have to do it within 45 minutes. And you have to, you know, like everything is precise, which is very Japanese for every single thing to be precise. There's no room for error. If you take 1 minute too long, the soba noodles break and then it's a waste of having done it. If you overstretch the dough, you know, you get holes and then you have broken noodles and that's a waste. And it doesn't cut right or, you know, so there's a precision to it. There's a rhythm to it. And you can, for me, it felt like getting a deeper connection to the people of my town and to just the Japanese way of life.
Right.
That discipline of daily practice. That steady improvement, that persistence. There is so much within it that connects you and makes you know that every single piece of this, no matter how difficult it seems, it is possible.
Right.
You just have to work at it and do it.
Shikisha, I can actually relate because I did Japanese archery and I remember the first time going, I thought, okay, it's about hitting the target. But really it's not. It's about becoming one. It's about, you know, the materials you have, taking the precise steps. Everything has a rhythm and a breath and a movement and a precision, you know, and becoming one with the arrow, the bow, and the target. And
And that's so interesting because as Westerners, you know, again, when you move into an Eastern culture and just the whole perspective shift of how people view things and life. So was that a major culture shock for you as Westerners and Caribbean people going? Because, you know, yes, they're an island culture too, like we're an island culture, but it's totally different.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I would say, I don't know, you can probably expand on this, but because of where I was in the bushes, as in country, and country people are the same.
Okay.
No matter where you go on this planet.
Okay.
Country people are the same. So country people love you. They're honest.
Right. Definitely.
So they don't have on the masks that the city folk carry. But also they're very open and they want you to feel welcome. They want you to feel at home. They're very giving of themselves. And so I feel that where I was placed was the right place for me because I've heard so many stories of people feeling lonely in Japan.
Okay.
I didn't have that
Experience.
option
Okay.
from the ladies who looked in my supermarket basket and said, to let me know that buying the beef was expensive.
Okay.
And I was like, my money, my food.
Right. You need some meat.
But I'm sure Leanne has like a better way of explaining
So-
that.
not really. I mean,
You were in the city, Leanne?
I was
Sorry.
in both.
Both,
So
okay.
first, I lived in an area called Saga, Kyushu Dome South, right, which is suburban countryside.
Okay.
You know, if you speak to people in Tokyo, they're like, "Oh, country."
Right.
But really, it's suburban countryside.
Okay.
I mean, it has a movie theater. It has many things, and people were really warm and kind and hospitable. I think is what I would say. Right. They went out of their way. I remember being lost the first day to work on the bicycle because everyone had to ride a bicycle to work at first.
No.
Yeah, my friend.
To drive.
Oh, we had bicycles. So it's like, okay, you know, in your work outfit, on the bicycle in the hot sun, not sure where to go. And we stopped 2 schoolgirls and we're like, where is this place in our broken Japanese English? And they're like, and the directions weren't going on so well. So we're like, we got the gesture. Don't worry, we'll follow you. So, you know, like they took, I think it was like 15 minutes out of their way to show us. Yeah. Which was really kind. I mean, I really believe if I didn't live in Saga at first, I'd have a different impression of Japan. Okay. After I moved to Tokyo, and Tokyo is very different. And the funny thing is about Tokyo, most of the people who are there are not from Tokyo. Okay. They're from outside, but they put they put
so
a
like
mask
a
on once they get in.
City, like most major cities.
And and there's a lot of job opportunity there, so a lot of people move there after. But I mean, Saga is my second home for that very reason.
I love that you said that. So basically, you would encourage that anybody who moves to Japan, a first timer, especially if they're going on a program to work, it's better that they start in a rural area to get acclimatized to the culture more than going into the city. You think it's an easier transition in the countryside?
I think that depends on your personality.
Okay, all right.
I could have done well in the city because I like the city, but I think being in Hashikami was a blessing. Okay. There are things I wanted. I remember before I went, I was like, God, listen, here's the thing. I'm going, right? I'm going because you want me to go. But here are the 3 things I need. I was like, I need a church that speaks English. I didn't get that. I didn't even get a church. I went to an unchurched town. Okay. I need an apartment that is not tiny. Right? I said, and I just need people to be okay with me. Right. Like, I know I'm different no matter where I go. I'm always different. And that's fine. But I just need people to not be judgy towards me. Right. And so what I got was my very big, juicy apartment.
Okay. Excuse me, guys, for the noise in the background. You've been hearing a lot of distractions, the noise from next door, my doggies, etc. So I apologize, but we're outdoors. It's safer outdoors. It's cooler outdoors. But sorry, you can continue because it's a little noisy. Yeah.
Yes, in Jamaica we have water issues, and that's called a pump. Right. But I got this really nice, spacious apartment, and I got people who really treated me very well. One of the things I really loved about my town is because I was such an oddity. I was the first non-blonde and blue person. I was also the first non-American that they've ever had. So I'm different in every way. I'm from a tropical island. When I got there, my prefecture didn't even know what my flag looked like. Okay. Let's just move on. Yeah. Bless the Lord. Right? But because I was so different, they made so many different efforts for me. The owner of the building came and was like, oh, but you're on the bottom floor, so you need to have, we need to cover your windows just in case there are peeping Toms. And the girl upstairs. Very true. In my town, we didn't have those problems. But, and other people are like, oh, why would they do that? Is it because you're a girl? And I'm like, no, it's because I'm not you. Right. But they made so much effort. So even doing soba was because I'm a novelty. And I just sucked it up. I was like, yes, let me do the things. I did Enburi, which we were also, myself and another LT, were the first non-Japanese persons that were allowed to participate in Enburi.
So could you explain what Enburi is?
So Enburi is a local festival. It is tied to the temples and it is calling forth spring. Okay. And so So the region that I was in, horses are the big thing.
Okay.
So we eat horse meat.
Okay.
We celebrate with horses. So you wear these hats that represent a horse's head, and you do these dances, and you go to the temples, and you travel around all of Hachinohe, and you do the. It's really fun. It's a whole march, but it's a lot of practice, and it's not. So we have like Sancho Tansai, which is a summer festival, and that's community based. So a lot of foreigners participate in that, especially as ALTs. But for this one, because it's temple based, they hadn't done foreigners before, and so it's this really fun dance. It's like, oh, we're going to, plant our rice, and we're going to fish, and it's calling forth a good harvest for the year. So it happens on the 17th of February every year, which is my birthday.
Okay.
The best day of the year. Okay, me and Michael Jordan, we are in it together. But it's just this really interesting thing, and you wear all these costumes and paint your face and stuff.
It's a beautiful spectacle.
It is a spectacle. It's also competitive.
Did you dance with the clappers?
Yes, so danced with the clappers. I danced with a tambourine. I danced with a fan.
Okay.
The dance I am glad I did not participate in was where they did a whole thing with the ferns. And they did a whole opening and closing. And I'm like, I am not that coordinated. I know you think because I'm black that I can dance. That is not true. The Chinese in me comes forth.
Right.
So, but it's great. It's a beautiful thing. And you dance, you dip, and you do all sorts of fun stuff. But the novelty of being the first the first person of color for them meant everything was a novelty. So I twisted my hair. They're like, how does your hair hold?
I was about to ask you, because, like someone there with hair that's different and curly hair, did they want to touch your hair?
So I had great teachers. And a kid, so one kid at the front of a class said, can I feel your hair? And I was like, yeah. She wanted to understand it. And I'm like, I get that you really legitimately do not understand this. And a young man sprinted from the back of the classroom to the front of the classroom and put his hand in my hair. And my teacher stopped it. And my teacher was vice principal, right? So I really messed with him. I love him. He's so awesome. Anyway, and he stopped him and he made him apologize.
That's good.
He made him apologize. He told him it's wrong. He told the entire class, you cannot touch someone without their permission.
I love that.
Don't do it. And then he said, you need to ask her if it is okay. And he asked me, and I'm like, yes, it's okay, because they don't know how does your hair hold in a twist.
And I'm glad you said that, because I want to segue into Leanne now, because as when Black people live in non-Black countries and the whole politics of our hair and don't touch our hair, we're not animals, don't pet us like we're in a zoo, but then also it's not cut and dry too, because there are people who genuinely, they're not coming from a racist space necessarily. It's curiosity. So not every action is an individual, and I love how your vice principal handled that situation. And then Lee now, because when I watched Lee on that YouTube, and I know, especially for those of us of color when we live abroad, where can we go, who's the person that could do our hair, and the products as well, they're expensive, we have to ship them in, etc. And I love how you created a whole, could you just tell us, what brought you to this point, to create again the frustration?
Most definitely. Actually, it was quite similar in what you described. I had natural curly hair in Japan, and there was no products at the time for people of color or any type of curl, and people wanted to touch our hair. I mean, most would ask. I remember once at a temple, they asked, a friend of mine had a huge afro, and they asked, can we take a picture? And we said, sure, you can take a picture of us. And all of a sudden, there were so many pictures being taken of us and not, the temple, which we were like, guys, okay, thank you. But a friend, Osioke from California, she had natural hair, and we were deciding, what do we do with this, basically, because it's either we're going to cut it off or we're going to try and make it work. And we ordered a bunch of products, And then we had it shipped to her, repackaged in California by her sister, then shipped to Japan.
Okay.
And it was really pricey. And we're like, I don't think I can survive and continue like this. And we tried the products. Yes, they were good, and you learned some things and not everything. And I'm like, I don't think I can do this. So in deciding whether or not to keep ordering and having this whole hassle or to chop off my hair, I started to do some research. And also not just hair products, but for example skin, because in Japan whitening is seen as something beautiful.
Yes,
right? And almost everything has whitening in there, even your face wash, everything.
Wow.
You have to be very careful. And I personally, I didn't want to be any lighter than I am, right? In winter I was really pale, and I was like, oh, I need the beach, I need the beach, I need some sun. But I wanted to protect my skin and protect my hair as best as possible, and not feel like, oh gosh, I can't be seen today. Or, you see people experiment with shiny bump. You see people experiment with so many things that they wouldn't go out in Jamaica with.
Right.
Trust me, it was a lick and style, because nobody knows any better.
Your hair.
Yes. Yeah, and people would lose their hair as well. The water quality is different.
That hard water.
So luckily, I mean, I had a bit of background because my mom, she used to work for Estee Lauder, and she was an esthetician, and she taught me a little bit when I was younger growing up. At the time, I never thought of it as anything. It's just like making masks, making different things from organic matter. And through experimentation, through lots of research, through trial and error, through, because this is originally for myself, and then my friend, and then some other friends, and then some other friends. And then one Christmas, I made some packages for people. And they're like, Lee, why don't you sell this? Why don't you do something with this? And I was like, you think I could sell this? Really? So then Lee Creates came about, which is part glass, yes, and art, but it's part organics, because there's a big market for people who need help.
Yeah, definitely.
Like not just, I discovered people who need help because of eczema, people who need help because of various things, especially babies.
Yeah, sensitive skin.
Yeah. So I'm glad, I think one of the main reasons why I continued doing what I was doing there is because of the appreciation I got from customers. I had this father write me one day and say, you don't understand how you've helped my daughter. Here's a shirt. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's a beautiful blessing. That's so nice.
And so when I question certain things, do I continue? Do I keep doing this? Those things made me continue.
Right.
Because
keeps driving you on. Yeah.
Definitely.
So my final question to you ladies, how has the transition been from Japan to Jamaica? Two island cultures, but two vastly different cultures. I know, Lee, in your case, for example, it was because of COVID. You were here on vacation and the borders closed down, and then you decided to stay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. In my case, to be honest, I was traveling.
Right.
I was in San Francisco on a lovely Sonoma trip, right, that I planned with my very good friend, enjoying wine in the country, and being like, oh, this COVID thing.
Yeah.
and then the last 2 days, because I had this whole bucket list trip planned. I love hiking and such, so I was going to go from Sonoma to Utah, rent the car, go around the Horseshoe Bend. Yeah. Trust me, it was planned, man, planned. I was like, yes, ticking it off this year. And so I had flown now from San Francisco to Las Vegas, because I was supposed to take the car there to Utah. And I remember calling the national park, and I was like, okay, so the national park is closed. I was like, why would they close the national park? You're hiking, that's social distancing. What? That's the perfect place. What's wrong with these people? And then I called, and everything was shutting down. And then on top of that, my friend who works, I have a lot of friends who are pilots and different things in the airline industry. They're like, Lee, just heads up, they're going to be stopping some flights. Nobody really knows yet, but they're stopping some flights. And certain things may be happening. So in case you get stuck, find a place to be stuck. So I thought, okay, if I get stuck 3 months, you get stuck 3 months unreasonable. Okay, find a place to get stuck for 3 months. I'm in Las Vegas. All right, Jamaica versus Japan. Jamaica is closer. Okay, maybe it's a good time to go home. Japan, I had to fly through Abu Dhabi to go back, right? Because I like to kind of get my little shopping things on the way to Japan, because you can't get everything in Japan. And so, and especially like natural things and oils and such. So I was like, okay, I may get stuck in Abu Dhabi. Don't really want to get stuck there. I'll be at my friend's house forever, right? My friends here are saying stay, but I'm like, that's a bit much, 3 months at a friend's place. I was like, Jamaica sounds like a good option, right? Well, let's go to Jamaica. 3 months in Jamaica and then I'm back in Japan. That's fine. So I said, okay. So I take out my belongings. I drink off all my wine because I'm like, customs going to get me with these 9 bottles, right? And I'm just like every day, like, oh. And I decide, okay, I'm coming to Jamaica. So I land in Jamaica. I'm like, my mom is like, okay, how long are you going to stay? I'm like, I'm not so sure, but, let's see. And I call immigration almost, like every week. And I'm saying, so, and they're like, just wait till COVID's over. And I'm like, after a while, I was like, what? Wait till COVID is over. And it just kept being pushed back. That was March. It kept, it was pushed back to June. It was pushed back to July. It was pushed back to August, September. And I was just like, no, this is serious. So finally, when they did open borders, only certain people could go in and certain people can't. And I still did not qualify. And I was like, really? Really? So at some point, I decided, you know what? I'm here.
Yeah.
This is where I am. And so just last week, I decided to close my apartment.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been there for almost a year.
Yeah. Right. Oh gosh.
Yeah, 3 months.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's so. Well, when I moved to Jamaica too, I actually came to plan my dad's 70th birthday, and I ended up staying. I didn't think I was going to be here for that long either. It was just like, I could be in Jamaica for like maybe 3-4 months and then go back, and I'm still here. Yeah, it's so
I can
funny.
relate.
Yeah, so you can relate. I totally know. So, Shikisha, how's it been for you?
Well, I got home because I needed to come home. I came home mainly because I looked on statistics and I looked on my father's age. And I'm like, hey, I really only have one parent. He's much more of a priority than the nice money I'm about to earn over here.
Right.
So let me just go home. But transitioning home was interesting. The good thing is, unlike most people, I came home to a job that I already knew I wanted. So I came back home and I worked in advertising. I got to do some really great projects in advertising. That was great. Things that took a little while to remember, to get used to, is just the more openness of emotions of people. That was one thing. As explained to Leanne earlier, I miss Japanese eggs. I also really and truly miss the safety of Japan. I mean, I was there for 3 years. I never locked my door unless I was leaving the country. My key stayed in the ignition. I was never worried that, like, I would walk to the convenience at 2 o'clock in the morning and never be concerned for my safety as a woman, which is not something I do in any other country.
Right. We hear it's one of the safest countries on the planet. Yeah.
I mean, they have, everybody has their issues, but I never felt scared for my own well-being. But coming back to Jamaica, there's a part of it that's also a sigh of relief. Sometimes when you're gone for so long, you need to come back home to remember who you are.
Definitely.
To be restored in certain ways. And that's the main thing for me in the transition. I've definitely grown since I've come back. There are areas that I mean, you're being an ALT gets
Old.
Real quick. How many English words are you going to do to say hello? Welcome to your new school. But the truth is, being back in Jamaica was a little difficult at first because I had to remember how to use my voice again.
Right.
How to speak up in a way that is not easily trodden.
Right.
Because in Japan, if you very barely speak up, you might be disrespectful.
Okay.
So it's a little different.
Right.
And so here you have to ensure that you're heard, whereas there you have to ensure you don't offend with being heard. So transitioning was good. I do miss a lot of things in Japan. I miss hand-cut noodles. I miss the freshness of the seafood, the cheapness of the salmon.
Oh gosh, yes, such a luxury
know,
item here. There's the noise again.
but
Ooh, sorry
yes.
guys. Yeah.
But I'm really happy
Yeah.
to be home, and I look forward to the next time I'm in Japan.
Okay, well, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today on A Drink and a Natter. I cannot wait to go to Japan and experience it for myself, and I'm sure a lot of the audience too. For many of us, Japan is on our bucket lists, and Asia in general is a region I want to explore some more. I've only been to Hong Kong and Vietnam, and I definitely want to do more of that region, and Japan and South Korea are high up on my list. And thank you so much. So if there's anybody out there listening, post pandemic, who may want to do the experience that you guys had through this JET program or otherwise, but it's just so nice to keep an open mind. Just remember, things are done differently. Every culture you go to, you adapt and you respect that culture. Ladies, thank you very much. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. So thank you for joining us on A Drink and a Natter, and I'll see you next time with some more interesting guests from my friend circle. Sending you love and light, and see you soon. Bye. So when my mates come over, I have to fix them a drink.